Evening all, welcome back to The View for the breakdown, the show that we look into Leeds' performances and Leeds' all-round position, I suppose, in the league this year, and we go into it in a bit more detail. This is the tactical analysis and tactical breakdown. So this is for you. Great. If it's a little bit over your head, we'll try and explain things as we go through it. The normal reviews are there for the chit-chatty stuff about a game. This is designed more to get into the nitty-gritty and the tactical side of the game. And I'm delighted to be joined by Ben Locky Leeds, who is a football analyst as well. And that should be said, what is credibility there for Ben. And I'm a football coach. So that's why we look at this from this perspective. But we'll check in with Ben first just to see how are you doing, Ben, and how are you since we last spoke?
Yeah, good, mate. My tooth problems have gone. I don't know if I had them when we last spoke, but they've been and gone. So I'll give them another week till they're back again and ruining my life. But apart from that, yeah, good, mate. How are you? How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm all right. I've got this weird problem with my eye, and someone's already commented on me looking like I got punched, but I didn't. Anyone who watches this channel on a regular basis will know that this comes and goes every couple of months. So outside of squinting with my left eye a little bit and having to wear my glasses, I'm fine. There's nothing else going on. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, Locky. We're going to get into this in a bit more detail, and we're going to talk about some of the questions that get asked about Leeds away performance, and also, I suppose, some of the things the players have said up till now, and that'll be at the second part of the video. The start of the video, we're going to look back at the last game, and Ben's going to give us a bit of a breakdown around where the goals came from and what happened in it, and we'll get into that in a bit more detail, and then we'll step into the overall Leeds form per season over the season. Captain Hook, yeah, thanks, Sean. The other part as well is we have some slides and some images to show some data around the performances, but also we're going to look at what a low block is versus a mid block and how to best counteract them, because again, the conversation keeps coming up. Leeds facing low blocks, and it's not always a low block Leeds face. Sometimes it's a mid block, and the conversation is very different depending on which one of those two that you face. But we do want to start off and get back into our last game out against Preston, 1-1 away from home, Ben, and I suppose it's one more point at Deepdale than we got last year. But another continuation of a poor away form, and Leeds only 3 wins on the road so far this season versus phenomenal home form, but it's chalk and cheese this year.
Yeah, it's really strange. Really strange how, even not like as an away form, just out in one game a few days before against Middlesbrough, you can play that good, and then a few days later, not great. It is like a different team. There's almost not many similarities in the two, which we'll go through actually in your analysis that you've done, Ger. So it is a very strange thing at the moment. This is the thing about football and this is where the problems come into it. There's always a solution to a problem. That's the good thing about it. It's how quick can you get out of that problem by, causing a solution so you get out of the problem. And then if another problem arises, how quickly can you get out of that one? That's what football is, basically. It's you're doing well until you come up to a problem. Then how quickly can you get rid of that problem? This one is growing now. We're not really, although we still create chances, obviously, we always will. We still have moments where we can win games. We can still be clinical. You still got to look at yourselves and go, how can we be better? How can we be more dominant? And we'll go through that today. And this is just good because, as being in the coaching side of it, we just need to get this off our chest sometimes, don't we? It's great to chat, but sometimes you want to just look at stuff and do the game, look at the game and stuff. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Lucky, I dug out my old match book that I used to have. It's green, you can't see it. But yeah, for this as well, to kind of look back at the stuff that I would say to players before teams that I know would play a low or mid block. So we were prepared for that. But also looking at, and I like data. I'm horrendously bad at maths, have been since I was a kid, rubbish at it in school, just about past it. But I love data because the more data and the bigger the sample size, the way I look at it, the more of a picture it starts to paint of how things really are versus how you think they are, because opinion and sometimes the eye test isn't always the most honest of tests. And I used to talk about Luke Murphy with this way as well. People used to say Luke Murphy was one of the best midfielders Leeds had at a period of time, and the more I analysed this game and looked at him, the amount of sideways passes he did versus anything forward told you the issues that Leeds had at that time period. So you can get into it and it can paint a picture. But I've dug out some old stuff to get into this tonight. And I'm looking forward to getting into it because, as you say, as a coach and as an analyst, this is the stuff that you want to kind of dive into. Like, I'd like to figure out why it's not going well.
Yeah.
Why did it not work? Or if it did work, why did that work? Why was that better than this? And get into the nitty gritty of it. So, but sorry. And someone is suggesting a change of formation as well. And I will just say this. It's a very valid conversation, especially for the away games, and we should touch on it. But he won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Won't change the system. I don't think he will change the system anyway. But I think it's a worthwhile conversation, Stephen. We'll have it towards the end. Anyway, back over to you, Locky. Let's have a chat.
I was just going to say, in that perspective, try and envision this video as where his staff, and we're trying to figure out how, based on his ideas, how we can change it and how we can help. Basically, that kind of angle, I guess.
Yes.
But I agree with you on data. The thing for me about data, I think it's used too much in terms of one game, and that you can overanalyze that. When you've got 19 games of it, or whatever it is we played, it's around that, innit? There's a good sample size there. And this is where things you may have forgotten 10, 12 games ago shows. And that's the important side of it. It's there to remind you of the entire season so far, not just the last game or the last 2 games. So that's what we've done here, haven't we? You have actually. You've done the data stuff in this. You've got all this season so far, which is a big data sample to go on. So
it is so far, yeah. It gives us a good idea where we are. We're halfway there, pretty much. We've played pretty much the same amount of home games as away games, so the sample size is comparable, and it's nice. But I should just say to anybody, if you do think the away form this season is an anomaly, this time last season we dropped the exact same amount of points away from home. So there are comparisons very much to some of the stuff that popped out this season. However, we lost more games on the road last year than this year. We've drawn more this year. So there is, in one sense, I suppose, slight improvement in one way, but very, very slight.
Yeah.
So, right, Locky, over to you, mate. What do you want to start off with?
Shall I get my things up?
Yeah, Copper.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if I'm looking over here, that's where you are currently. So I'm not looking away from thingy. Right, I've got to change screens for this. How do I share? Yeah, and to be honest, this analysis is actually it's very simple. So people will be able to catch along. It is very simple. And I was looking at the goal, and I'm looking at before the goal what happened, because that's for me. In the game, I was sat there, Joe, watching the game, going, I don't like this. They're getting into this. They're winning stuff here. So I had a look into it, and this is in the first minute and a half, by the way. So what we do. So the arrows here are who we're looking at. This is Bogle. Obviously, we know Bogle is. That James circle is crossing the ball in. My issues is this. Number 44, Potts. He's the one who scores in the future move. Mm-hmm. Bogle's committed. Remember that. That's the thing we've done. That's a tactic. Get him in the box, extra man. Nonto is on Potts. That is a key part, a winger. The wingers are going to pop up in this. So what we do is, and there's this space here. I don't like this because look at their number 10.
Yeah.
If they counter here, we're done. You know what I mean? There's no, where's the midfield? Why they're not close, a little closer. So what happens is Dan James crosses it in. They win the header and it comes out to the number 10. Rothwell is now engaging with him. Mm-hmm. Look where number 44 is, by the way. Keep an eye. Problem here with Rothwell. Mm-hmm. Problem here. Rothwell is running into it. He's out of position. He's not in a great position at the edge of the box. Gets past him way too easily. Knocks it round him. Too easy. Again, gets past Tanaka the exact same way. Too easy. So that's 2 tackles at the edge of their box that we didn't do. That's a problem. Now you're in trouble. Because Pascal, I feel sorry for Pascal, I'm watching it back. I think I blamed him a little bit for certain things in the game, but actually he was exposed by stuff like this. Because now he's committed past him. Pascal's got do I go now? Do I engage or do I stay here? It's a tough decision because the midfielders didn't stop it there. Just foul him. Just foul him. If you have to take a card, that's the way it is. Foul him. Or get there. It's simple as that. So now it's 1-1. Ball comes out here. And this is again, look where 44 is. Look at Bogle. Look how far back he is.
Yeah.
And that's the number 10, by the way, who's at the edge of the box. And this is what annoys me. He was at the edge of the box. Right, where's our midfield here? Completely gone. Our attack. Look at 44. Where's our wingers?
Yeah.
From this,
look at how the fullback is as well. Look at Sam Byram is, but look at the ground that Sam Byram does actually get to in the next couple of images, and he's actually pointing at where the danger is as well. And it's been ignored.
Exactly. And as we go, Nonto's there. In this point, it's Nonto. I'm going to come to Dan James. He does one in a minute that really annoyed me. Midfield need to do a lot better. That is soft. That is so soft. Sam Byram there. Yeah, look, he's behind him. Yep. He's catching him now. You know,
and look at Byram pointing there where the danger is. Now he's who he's pointing at to fix that problem, I don't know, because Pascal has been, as you've said, isolated.
Whose
now.
Man is that? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Like, this is the problem. Look, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bodies on ours. At the start of the move, all their bodies, bar the
Go behind.
striker, was behind our line. Now they're all in front. They've worked harder to get into their Ger than we have, and that's what I don't like. And that was a warning in the first minute. The ball comes across. Rodon does well, actually, but look at the back post. It's a problem. It's there. It's there already. We can see it. This is where the goal comes from, remember. Same situation. Warning number 2. This is before the goal. We do all right here. Decent press. We make them go back. But again, look at the position of our players. Look where Nonto is. Okay, goes to the goalkeeper. All right, Dan James is in the position to press this guy. Don't mind that. That's fine. But where Nonto is. Now, off the screen, you can't see him. But Potts, who made the run originally, who scores, he's just off screen there with Sam Byram. And so is the number 10. Look where Nonto is still. Sam Byram's got 2v1. Why is he not dropping back here? I don't understand it. Bogle loses his battle here, which we'll keep going into. The ball here goes to this guy. I think it's Brady, who passes it into this space. And again, look, still a 2v1. No sign of Nonto. 44, by the way, just to clarify. He's off the screen, but he's right high up.
Yeah.
Comes in here. Aronson's beaten to the ball. Look, 44 and 10 again. Where's Nonto, Ger? Where is he? I'll tell you where he is. He's back here off screen. Still, by the way. So is Dan James. Still going. Where's Nonto? Look at that from a different view. He's not even on the picture.
I know, yeah.
This move was about 7 or 8 seconds, and he's not got back. It's still a 2v1. Like, how terrible is that?
So much space.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's not good enough. Poor Sam Byram here. Luckily, the ball's bad, but that's the second warning. And just a little one here, Ger, before we get onto the goal. Bogle does well in this situation. He wins the first header. Right, good. But if you're going to win the first header, you've got to win the second and the third. Simple stuff, right? Winning your battles, winning your duels. Bogle does his job. They then win this. And just look at the body language difference. Look at the desire to win.
They're walking. Yeah, they're walking.
Third,
He's seen you.
fourth, fifth. They win 5 touches in a row and they win a free kick. This is not good enough for me. Bogle does his job. He wins that header. Where is the flat-footed? They're ready. Look at that. Pro's not even jumping. He's just kind of leaping a little bit.
He's given up there. He's running. Yeah, he's been bypassed there and he wasn't ready and he didn't get off the ground. He's on his heels.
Foul him.
Same with Nonto, same with Aronson, same with Rothwell. They're all on their heels.
Flat-footed, exactly. Same way with Tanaka as well. Why is he not on him there? The guy chests it, by the way. Just chests it down.
And the thing with that, Locky, as well, is he doesn't have to win the ball in that situation, but if he gets closer to the player, it makes it more difficult for him to pick out a header and therefore forces a mistake.
Exactly. There was none of it. Aronson tries, but he should have anticipated it quicker. They get it into this guy from that pass. He wins a free kick from Rodon. It's 5 in a row. That is bad. That's not good enough for me. They win a free kick. And the goal, oh my God. So Rothwell drives, okay, loses the ball, whatever, should release it to Sam Byram, is what it is. Watch 44. Again, this is, honestly, Ger, you're going to squeal at this. Again, Bogle from the first clip is high up. Just think to note, that's how we play. That's not his fault. And to be fair to Bogle, watching the game, he actually busted a gut to try and get back. He couldn't get there. This guy was too quick. No one else does, and I don't like it. So Potts wins the ball. He's the guy who scores, by the way, and look where he is.
Yeah.
It's behind 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our players. He plays the ball through there. Tanaka doesn't read it. And again, look where they are. The second their striker gets that ball, look at the body language difference in their players. Sprinting and ours.
Well, Willie's jogging.
Dan James.
Aronson's jogging. Dan James is stationary. Rothwell is jogging. Pirro is maybe jogging, but you can see Bogle's legs are open. He's into a sprint now, but as you say, they're moving. And then Pascal's been done on that turn. For me, I would look for Joe Rowland to come straight across at that point. He's close enough and sweep that, or Pascal to take the player out.
Yeah, one of the two. But this straight away, and again, I watched this. I didn't just screenshots. I did watch it. They are absolutely sprinting. This is the guy who won the ball in the box. He's gone past 3 of our guys. Which one of them there is taking any responsibility for tracking him and him? The worst thing about it, Ger, they're right in front of him. They can see it. And they can't be asked.
And as you said,
what it is.
There's been 3 warnings up to this point, so there should be some danger in that break in their eyes, and clearly the body language would say that they don't feel like there's any danger in this break.
Exactly. And that's frustrating. Look at them. They're gone. Potts is gone. Who's taking responsibility? Who's taking responsibility for this guy, number 10? None of these are. They're flat-footed. Look at them. Look at the difference. Ruffalo's got his head down there.
Strolling there, and Willie's strolling.
Yeah. That's Dan James, by the way, who last week we were all praising for running the length of the pitch and winning it in the box. He's not doing it here away. Why is that? Look at them three there. That's desire, Ger. Yeah. Look at him. Bogle again. Look, he does try. I'm not going to criticize him for this. He actually tries. He actually busts a gut. It's these four here that I've got a problem with. Yeah, they're not doing enough for me. Look, where are they? Where Potts is now?
When you've now got a 1v1 in an attacking situation, which always favors an attacking player. Because the defenders are facing the wrong direction and they hate doing that. Strikers are running onto the ball. They love doing that. And you've got plenty of space for the ball to be played into, so you should be able to catch them on their heels. And attackers are naturally faster than defenders in most cases.
Yeah. And this is what you got: number 7, number 44, number 10. Let's go right to the start of it. They're all here. They're with our players. This is terrible. Like this is the most frustrating one. Yeah, they're full on sprinting, and the only ones that can be bothered in our team to get back as much as them can. These four here. These guys have got a bust a gut in. I didn't like it, Ger, when I watched it back. It weren't good enough. I don't know what Rodon's doing. What he's doing there is criminal. I have no idea what he's thinking.
We're okay, lads. We're okay. You're not okay. And also, if you go back one slide there, or one picture there, Locky, from here, I'm looking for my centre half to cut that ball out.
Yeah.
And if you look at the next, and you could argue with this image, oh, well, it's probably too far ahead of him. That image shows that the ball nearly goes behind him. So he's close enough to cut that out. Yeah, he could have slid and just taken that ball. I was always told as a player by managers, deal with the ball first, ask questions afterwards. Don't assume anything, just get rid of it. And then you can worry about it later on. And we don't. It's like, no, we're fine. And you're not.
Yeah. No, exactly. I agree. And that's all of them. But I believe someone said in the comments about Bogle. What I will say about Bogle, Potts is the right back for them. He's their right back. He's marking a guy that's coming into his space. That's not his man all game. And he actually watch the footage back. Honestly, go watch. He's sprinting after him. He's trying. The other three are just jogging. In that last frame, Ger, they're nowhere in the pitch. They're not even in the half. That's not good enough for me. Even if you can't get back, you're telling me if Dan James receives that, he can't reach that. Of course he can. Yeah, I weren't happy, to be honest.
Well, I want to, just as you were going through that, I wrote down a couple of questions that may be popping into people's heads. With Leeds overlapping with fullbacks, they're nearly higher than the wingers at times. And this is where the change of system that was mentioned by, I think it was Liam or Jonathan, mentioned the change of system for me would be away from home, would be because of the wingers playing a fullback play so high. Pascal Struijk can get isolated 1v1. So can Joe Rodon. They can. It's easy to isolate, especially when you don't have an out and out sitting CDM in front of them.
Yeah.
Away from home, Leeds have more of the possession than the opposition tends to have. Do you think that if Leeds played with deeper fullbacks, that goal doesn't happen, or if Leeds played with a back three in away games in that situation, because there's probably no need for fullbacks in that kind of a situation because Leeds are attacking more, and then that removes the situation as well because he can sweep?
Yeah, potentially. I also think even if you are playing this way, I think you've got to do better to cut the passes out originally, the move. Especially in the first two, there was 2 occasions where the midfield could have stopped that attack. I think there's things like that. You've got to anticipate. The edge of the box is key. If you're committing both forwards, that midfielder, which was Rothwell, has to be close to the edge of the box to stop any counter. It was too deep for me. So then they've already started the counter and he's just kind of reacting then. The edge of the box is key in defending situations, even when you're attacking off the ball. Their number 10 was at the edge of the box with no one around him. You've got to look at that and go, right, that's where their counter is going to come from. That's the only way it can come from. You've got to be aggressive there. You've got to be higher up at the edge of that box. And again, you're right. But this is what I loved about Ampadu when he played. He was so good at that. You know, when Pascal got spun there, Ampadu, you bet, would have been there 100%. Yeah. And that's why I really do think we miss Ampadu in these counter-attacking situations. I think he's really good. He works his backside off to get back. Positionally is good. He reads the game well. He reads where runners are going to go. And I say this every week, Rafa and Saka are brilliant. They're really, really good. But in those situations,
you want to see them.
Yeah. So that's probably my thing about it.
That's excellent, mate. Fantastic. Really, really appreciate pulling all that together. And as has been said by Steve, great analysis, Locky.
Cheers,
Completely
Steve.
agree. Evening to Steve down in New Zealand. I hope you're good, mate. How do we play so well in one game and switch off in the next? It's the eternal question of Leeds United form, mate, isn't it? And Steve, it's all about desire. Very few Leeds players showing the desire to get back. It's character for me as well. You know what I mean? It's round of applause from Kimberly for Locky. Yeah, 100% me. It's there's two sides to the game. And if you're an attacking player and you think your only job is attacking, then you're not doing your game right, because defending starts at the front. Has always. Again, I played as a striker, and I was always told, make sure that you press straight away. Or if you're not pressing someone, cut out an opportunity for somebody. So if we want them to go down the right-hand side because that's their weakest side and our best side, then I lock off the left-hand side, and my body shape and everything is designed to stop them playing over this way and make it very obvious I'm marking over here, so don't come here. And then you send them down a channel. And then the winger's job is to get back and mark the fullbacks. And that's the job. And I hated this. I had a rule with my team. Any team I've coached, of this rule: no walking. No walking at any point. You should be on your toes at the very least, or at least in a very slow trot the entire time, because if something happens, you can react and get on. If you're standing still and someone's on the move, you're done. You've no hope. So that's a huge one for me. And another thing I used to say to wingers, it's slightly different in this system, but I used to have a lot of wingers would say to me, like, what's my position defensively if the ball's on the far side of the park? And my easy solution for them was always stay in line with the ball. So if we're out of possession and the ball's on the far side to you, line yourself up with the ball and keep an eye on your winger, make sure the fullback can make sure he doesn't get in free at the back post, but that's your defensive line as it goes. The fullback goes beyond you, lock on and go with him, job done. And you just cut out that space, and you always have your defensive shape there. And it just, in those moments, and it's not a one-off, there's several of them. And there's been Watford, Blackburn, we saw the exact same goal. Millwall, we saw situations like that as well where players were getting isolated. So it's interesting. Free Falling says we play with a higher tempo, but for some reason we don't do as much away from home. And this is what we're going to get to, because this is what I want to jump into. And I'll get to it in a sec. Why doesn't Perkins see this? A lot of teams. I mean, you would imagine he does see this, and he's got a big analytical team, although he should hire this man.
At the end of the day, Joe, just on that, like, he will have said this to those players, but he can't push them on the pitch. Dan James, he's not said to Dan James in that. I'm picking Dan James. There's four of them in that. Yeah. He's not said to any of them in there, right, when we're countering, you just walk back. He'll have told them, you need to get back. They haven't, because Dan James did it 4 days ago against Middlesbrough. Remember, he ran the entire length of the pitch.
Yeah.
Why is he not doing
that? And create
a
counter-attack in the same move, because we got the break quickly. So they've committed defenders and midfielders forward there. If you can win that ball, you've now got space and a chance to get in behind and impact them. Whereas when it's slow, we don't get in behind them because they're set up and they're organized and you don't get in. There's a great opportunity to whip a ball from a counter-attack and go on another counter back and expose the space. So it's interesting. Question here for you from Steve Locky. Pascal chased the player for the goal. Could he have impacted the move better by running directly towards the area to try and cut out the cross?
Potentially. See, my good question, Steve, to be fair. What I would do personally, Joe might disagree, in that situation, Pascal, look, he's been beat kind of, but he actually does all right because he shows him wide. I don't mind that in a centre-back. Show him wide in expectance that your teammate centrally will get and pack the box for you. That's the expectance. Slow him down. That's what he did. He did quite well, to be fair. He kept him wide. He didn't dive in. The guys behind him didn't catch up with play. They were walking as we should. So I'm all right with what he did, generally speaking. Probably could have done a bit more aggressive in the end to stop the cross. Yes, definitely. Having said that, Rodon should have dealt with it. Bogle probably should have dealt with it. The guys who didn't track back, they should have been there. At least one of them should have been in that box for me. So I understand it. For me personally, I think he did all right. Probably could have been a bit more aggressive in the last 2 or 3 seconds to cut it off, but
engage it. Yeah,
I think it's been left isolated 1v1. It's difficult for a centre back, especially out wide.
Yeah, it is. It is, and that's what a striker and the winger will look to do. They look to isolate you 1v1 because they know you're not comfortable in that position. Your back is to the goal and you're running backwards, and they're coming at you at full speed. I mean, for me, a winger, Lucky, if you've got a defender backing off you as you run towards him, it just takes a shoulder drop and he's gone and you're past. It's that simple. So yeah, a couple people coming in late. Where is the question there? Ian joined late. I presume you've shown Burnley. No, we just finished doing the Preston goals and the warning signs that led up to this. But I do want to get into some of the other stuff, Lockie, and I'd love your opinion on this. So,
Mhm.
best way to introduce this, I suppose, is we are being told in the press conferences that teams set up away from home the same every time Leeds go on the road. So they all play a low block and they sit in and they park the bus. That's what we're told. We're told Daniel Farke has said that he doesn't prepare for away games any differently than home games. And we're told that teams don't offer as much when Leeds go away as they do when Leeds are at home. And that's why the home form is so good. So I've gone digging into the data and it's interesting. We are also going to go through the low block stuff and mid blocks and explain what they are and how to get past them around.
Yeah.
Which is my best example of what our home and away form looks like in a Daniel Farke visual as well. So
that's me as well. That that's me.
yeah. Mind you, just this for the away games.
Yeah.
Come on, lads. So to get into this. So excuse the Excel for a second, but what I've done is I've taken all of our home games and all of our away games so far this season, and I've worked out the averages of every single one of these characteristics. So how many shots Leeds have taken at home and how many shots Leeds take away, how many shots we've faced at home and away, how many shots we've taken inside the box and outside the box, because that's goal scoring opportunities, the XG for us at home versus away, and our XG against versus away. And as you can see by this, Leeds take less shots away from home. They face more shots away from home. They shoot less inside and outside the box. Our XG is less, but the opposition's XG away from home is higher, which would suggest that not every team is parking the bus against Leeds United away from home. And in fact, when you take 10 games versus 10 games, Leeds are clearly setting up differently away from home than they are setting up at home and approaching the game differently. What that looks like is probably better like this. Leeds XG 4 at home is 1.8, away it's 1.7. So there's a clearly we're creating less goal scoring opportunities away from home. The XG against us at home, it's 0.34. Opposition teams create less chances at Ellen Road, but away from home, opposition chances are creating one clear chance per game. And also, it should be said, Leeds have conceded 9 goals in 10 away games. So it's those away XG is nearly being converted in every single away game that won. Shots taken, Leeds have averaged nearly 20 shots at home. Away from home, we only average about 14. Shots faced at home, we only have 4 shots against us, 8 away from home. Shots in the box, 12 at home, 9 away. Shots outside the box, 6 at home, and 5 away. And they're the averages over all of the games taken in together. So when you see this, there's clearly a need to set up slightly differently away from home. Whether we've got that right or not remains to be seen. And that's, I'll let you guys decide that yourselves. But this is the totality of the season put together. Leeds have taken 99 shots at home this season, but only 58 away from home, nearly half. Leeds have faced 21 at home, 32 away. We've had 61 shots inside the box of that 99 that we've taken at home, 37 away from home. And outside the box, we're only hitting 32 at home and 21 away from home. So we're not creating as many goal scoring chances away from home as we are at home. And the conversion rate conversation comes up again because that's been an issue all season. Huge. Leeds need to create more chances to score more goals. And unfortunately, we're conceding more chances away from home and creating less of them away from home. So there is very clearly a different approach. The line that Daniel Farke said about not preparing differently for home and away games, if he's not, he needs to start considering looking at that, because what's happening isn't working. We take less shots away, face more shots away, have less shots in the box away and less shots outside the box away. And all of that is context, because people will say, well, that's normal, that's natural. And in most situations, it is. But we keep getting told that teams play low blocks against Leeds and they all sit in and they don't do anything. And that's why Leeds aren't scoring goals and why it's harder away from home. This suggests teams are actually having more of a go when Leeds are away from home than they do when Leeds are at home. Lockie, any thoughts on this so far?
The main thing for me was on the last slide, Ger, about the XG, in terms of against home, 0.3, away 1.9. That is huge. And our best thing this season, especially before this little bit of bad form, was our off-the-ball work. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah. But 1.9 away on average compared to 0.3 at home is huge. And I think we go back to the examples I just showed. Those are where a lot of it is coming from for me. It's those situations where we lose the ball. How do we react? How do we get back? How do we track? Those are the problems. And teams are coming up against us and creating chances from crosses, from stuff like that. Whereas at the start of the season, we were so compact in the box that any cross that came in just got sent back out by the central defenders. So that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
And you're right. We're a wasteful team in general, and we just look at the conversion rates of our front four. It's not great in terms of comparing it to the league. And so we require a lot of chances to win a game, right? A lot of shots. Like you said, you're creating less chances away, meaning it's harder for you to score, and you're conceding more. So that balances the games out, So yeah, and at each end of you've got the attack and the defense in each box. It needs to improve.
Yeah, across the board. We need to take more shots. We need to create more chances. We need to reduce the amount of chances the oppositions are getting. It all needs to change. And as I say, although the WLD or wins, losses, and draws column looks healthier this season, we've still dropped the same amount of points away from home as we dropped last season. And I think, again, the point on this is if you take it a step. Actually, sorry, before I get to that, I do want to say, because Liam said the atmosphere at home pushes us forward. The players are more involved at home. The crowd makes a massive difference. I agree with you, Liam. All of this is taken on the premise of what the players have told us and what the manager has told us. And between the players and the manager, all they've said is teams park the bus, they sit deep, and we prepare the same way. Clearly, that's not the case.
I'd love to ask a player in that situation, if I was in this analysis in that room and they're all sat in front, I'd go, why have you not busted a gut to get back there?
Yeah.
And the answer will be, that'll be it. They won't know. And this is football. This is what they do. This isn't a Dan James thing. This isn't a non. This is a football thing. It's what they do. Sometimes they just don't get back. But you watch any winning team, they are getting back, every single one of them. Even if I hate to do this, and I know it's a wild example. Under Bielsa, remember when we were short at the back, and in 2 or 3 seconds, 7 or 8 players around the box. I'm not saying it needs to be that drastic. All you need in that situation is one of them clump of 4 who can't be bothered sprinting back to track the runner that is literally running past them. They've gone past them.
Yeah.
No one's followed them. It's stuff like that for me that needs to change mentally, because it's not good enough. And you can't always rely on the crowd. You have to find your own motivation, representing the badge and the team and what you're going for, which is the Premier League. When the crowd isn't there, and they're still there. They're still there away. We take a lot of away support every single game. Do it for them lot. They're there. Do it for yourself. Do it for the manager. Do it for your teammates. It's just running. Yeah. We're not asking them to do amazing technical things. We just want them to run, like Preston did. Preston did it. Yeah.
The minimum requirement of a footballer: run.
Yeah.
Because it's a field sports game. It involves running. Open your legs, get moving. I would be apoplectic on the sideline looking at players standing on the edge of an opposition box while a break happened. I'd lose the plot completely. Just unacceptable. And there's a bit of arrogance in that again, Locky. We've said that a couple of times over the last few of these that we've done. There's at times a bit of arrogance seems to creep into Leeds game, and you think to yourself, I'm going to get to that tempo question in 1 second, where you are definitely coming to that. I'll start and come back to you because it's the next point. But they've got to do the dirty work. And it's an old cliched line, but you've got to earn the right to play football.
Absolutely.
And you earn the right by working harder than your opponent. And in more cases than not, and again, it's another cliche of football, but hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And in that situation, those 3 or 4 situations that you outlined, Leeds didn't work hard enough and Preston outworked them, and Preston got the reward for it and Leeds got punished. And that's ultimately, that's the point of this. When you haven't got the ball, you've got to outwork the opposition. When you have got the ball, you've got to be clinical and you've got to move your opposition and you've got to dictate the game. If you're just keeping possession for possession's sake, you won't do that. And you'll notice that sideways passing, backwards passing, the usual kind of stuff there. And the speed and tempo then comes into how to get around teams, which we'll get to. But I do agree with Andy on this, and I said this during the week. I do think this Leeds team has got a little bit soft. And if you look at the games that Leeds have lost this year, and Locky, we've probably dove into those ones more than the wins, as you tend to do, because you learn from a loss, you don't from a win. But it's always looked like Leeds have lost the duels in that game. And if you look at Willie Nanto, for example, against Preston, not hanging Willie out to dry, because by no stretch of the imagination was he the poorest player in the park. There were plenty along there with him.
Yeah.
But he lost 9 of 9 duels in that game.
Yeah.
And if you can't win those battles, you've got a problem.
Yeah. And I didn't see the numbers for Tanaka and Rothwell, but they got ran past way too many times. I showed an example there at the edge of the box where both of them are too slow to react. They're not aggressive. Why have they let him run past? Foul him. They're on a counter attack. You're just going to have to take the foul. Rothwell wasn't close enough to the edge of the box originally. So that's on you. You've got to take that foul. That's the way it is. You've allowed a counter there. So Yeah.
Well, you're responsible. You know, you're the wrong side of the play. You're the wrong side of the ball. You're the wrong side of the opposition player. And you've stayed there and made no effort to fix any of those problems. If you do that, job done. I mean, you just mark the players, you remove the opportunity to pass the ball. If Rodon or Bogle get closer to the goal scorer, then the option's removed for a cross and it ends up being a ball just hitting the space and either Melier comes out and collects it or Rodon deals with it. But again, not close enough. I let this up from Herbert saying that there's no need to sign bruisers. The squad should be coached to stand up for themselves. One of the hardest things to coach, and I've had this as a coach, is getting someone to kick somebody else is one of the hardest things to coach. If you don't have it in you, you won't do it. No matter how much I say you got more physical, you just won't be.
Yeah.
Some of the best players in the world. I remember when Matt Letitia was playing in his prime, my dad always said the same thing about him. The reason he doesn't get into the England team was if you kick him, he goes out of the game. Vanishes. And that's what you do to talented players. You rattle them. You try and rattle their cages and you get in their faces. And again, you look at the tackle on Tanaka, the kick on that Osmajic had on Rodon off the ball. 2 yellow cards that should have been 2 yellow cards. Far more physical team. Millwall were far more physical than us. Blackburn were far more physical than us. Watford were far more physical than us. All of them won the battles. All of them got results. So
I feel like we've been saying this all season, Joe.
We have.
Obviously, when we're winning, we're not going to speak about it because it's not a problem when you win because we're dominating the game, right? So we don't see it. But when you lose, you see it, and it's very evident. And we signed Gulavogi, and I think he has a bit of that. And that's
I think he does as well.
I'm thinking about him starting because I just think he has a bit of that. I loves it. He's always been a competitor in his career.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think Farkin now has Ampadu and he's trying to get Ampadu back in, but you've got Gilavogi who's fully fit and ready to go. Play him right now while you're waiting on Ampadu to get up to speed. Do you know what I mean? And you can then put Rotwell into the 10 or Tanaka into the 10. You can make that change now if you want to, but there is just a bit of stubbornness about Daniel where it's like, no, I'm right.
Yeah.
And I'll be proven right, 2 points per game, blah, blah, blah. You know, and that was Herbert falling love incorporates some martial arts training. Love to see it. Love to see it. Although we'd be told they were defensive moves and not attacking moves, so it would be the same thing in the end anyway. Sean is saying I was a crap footballer but played a lot because I wasn't afraid to challenge somebody. Sean, you nailed on. There was a guy when I played for Shamrock Rovers.
Play like that.
Yeah, every team needs it. I played for Shamrock Rovers when we were on the youth squad, the under 17 squad, I think it was at the time. There was a guy playing centre midfield called Kenny O'Toole, short, blonde-haired, stocky little midfielder, and Kenny just broke up everything and just gave the ball to somebody else to do the work. And my dad used to walk away from games going, give me 11 Kennys any single day of the week and you will win trophies with that team because they'll just outfight everybody else. No nonsense, no ego. It's not about them, it's about the team.
Yeah.
And it's a bit mixed in there.
We had a
hanging
guy
on the screen. I wanted to show this Locky as well. Go ahead. Go on.
I was just going to say we had a guy at Uni who literally would bring on for the last 20 minutes just to foul him. Just to break up everything, get a card every game. Absolutely fine. You need those people. That's why I loved Calvin so much. Because he's got the flair and the passing range, but he also could just snap someone. But fairly. Sometimes not fairly, but...
Sometimes you just have to take a card. Sometimes it's the right thing. I mean, tactical fouling is part of the game. Is why it carries a yellow card because it's part of the game. But sometimes you just take the foul and get on with it and deal with the consequences later. But having those players in the team are there for a reason. If you look at Leeds games this season, when teams are being level or ahead of us, in the last 15 minutes, they break up their 5 substitutions in as many blocks as they can because it just breaks up the flow of the game and stops you getting any momentum. And the term that's used always is break up the game. Go on and break up the game. Just stop them from having any flow. If the ball goes out of play, kick it 2 yards away. If it goes out for a kick out, take your time. If you catch the ball, go down. If you get a nudge, fall over, stay on the ground. All of the dark art stuff that's designed to slow the game down. So, yeah. And then you look at this side by side and it's chalk and cheese. Leeds home form this year, joint best in the division with Sheffield United. The Sheffield United and Burnley away form is what should be kept an eye on here. If you look at it up here, they're there, we're down here, and that's why we're not top of the division right now. It has to improve. Points 28 at home, 14 away. We've dropped 16 points away from home. We've only dropped 4 at home. We have only scored 12 goals, which ties in then with the lack of the reduced amount of shots we're taking away from home. You can see it clear and day there. It's half. It's exactly half. So don't tell me we're doing the same things away from home because we ain't. And the numbers back it up. And then goals against, we've conceded 9 on the road and 6 at home, which are still decent concession numbers, but the 9 away from home isn't great when you're not scoring away from home. So that tends to be the problem. But Yeah, not enough greens over here. Too many yellows, too many oranges and greys there. But yeah, that's that part. The tempo conversation. Let's get into the tempo conversation.
Tempo.
And it has been asked. So Richard asked, so increase the tempo, that would help, Ger. It would, but only again if it's done the right way and if it makes sense. I want to just smash the like while you're here as well. Thanks very much. Gamesmanship is what Pierre's calling it. Yes, that's what it was called. And then as Kimberly points out, what a difference in form it really is. It's a huge difference between the two. And that's for me where it needs to be looked at. And the problem and the reason we don't do these as much when we win games is because every time we win a game, we try and do something like this. Half the chat will tell us a win is a win. A win is a win. And that's why you need to look at performances even when you do win, because you will see the cracks that will eventually become problems down the line. And if you don't identify them when you're winning games, I talked on Joe's show last year an awful lot about this, and I kept getting told by everyone in the chat, relax, Jay, we're winning games. And then we didn't. And then it's like, we mentioned this, we mentioned this, we mentioned this, we mentioned this, and now look at them all happening at the same time, and we're losing games. So you have to look at the wins and the losses. You can't just go 3 points, great, dust it off, move on. Sometimes you do, but more often than not, you need to look at it.
Like I said at the start, Joe, like as a coach or an analyst, you're always looking for potential problems. So if they do arise, you know how to solve them, right? That's the point of watching the footage, getting the stats and putting them together, is to find things that might become problems. I remember when we drew against West Brom at the start of the season, everyone was happy. I wasn't happy. I said that on Joe's. I didn't like it. And I understand that why it was a good point at Hawthorns. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it showed signs to me that we didn't have that grit, really. I didn't like it. Yeah. And we're seeing it consistently now, to be honest with you. Yeah. It's just very flat at times.
Nothing worse than watching that kind of football, because it does drain your willingness to want to see anything after that. Like if you watch games where it's just drab and slow, it's so hard to watch it. Millen Chip is saying, is Farke going for draws away from home? I'm going to say the stats suggest that
from home, he's doing a terrible job.
Well, yeah, but he's going the correction the way. But yeah, but if you listen to Daniel Farke, he constantly talks about 2 points per game. That's 3 at home, 1 away. And he says it all the time. And every time Leeds have a bad performance and pick up a point, it's a good point on the road, 2 points per game. It's the same rhetoric that gets pulled out every single time, which is why the second the goal went in, we got the equaliser. I was like, this won't be criticised. This will be said, point on the road, 2 points per game, move on. And it needs to be looked at in a bit more detail. But I will defend Farke in some situations because he's not tactically inept. He's not an idiot when it comes to tactics, because some things he does work very, very well. And I would say he has coached some of our players to be better players. Absolutely. And Daniel James being a prime example of that as well. So he has done good things, as well as there are some areas that need to be looked at, but that's the key one. The last thing before we finish up, folks, is just talk about this tempo thing and why it's important. And I want to introduce you to the tactics map of the low block. And I'll change my tool here so we can have a proper little look at this. So in the white is your low block, standard 4-4-2 low block. With a 5, sometimes this guy will sit in here and you've got a 5, or one of them will drop in between the centre backs and make a 3 at the back and tuck in that way as well. Leeds tend to be very left-hand sided, so we tend to play an awful lot over here. And this is where slow build-up versus fast build-up is a problem. If you're playing on the left-hand side here, this block here will all move across to the left as a block, staying with those gaps the same distance in between them and staying compact. The point of the low block is to minimize gaps between the lines to stop you playing in those areas. That's the whole point of that, to get you playing in front of them. If you look at Leeds when they play against a low block, it's exactly what Leeds do. They play left to right in front of the box and try and find little gaps. But you've got to be more expansive than that. And you, again, keep an eye on Jaden Bogle or Dan James or Willie Nonto, depending on what side the ball is on the pitch with Leeds, and you'll see this start to pop up. When Leeds get it here and these guys come across, Leeds need to get the ball back in here to the centre-backs or Tanaka as quickly as they can, and then back out this side fast. The number one thing that I used to always say about playing against a low block was speed first. The ball has to move quickly to get around them. Now, the first thing you should do is be gone before the low block ever settles in. So break quickly from defense and don't let them settle in. Leeds away from home are so slow to get going that it allows the opposition to get into that low block. If that happens, you've got to figure out how to get around the back of it as quickly as you can. And that comes from minimizing your touches and switching the play rapidly between sides, whether it's a big diag or a crossfield ball, or just one pass in there, one touch and gone again. We take too many touches on the ball in the middle of the park, but the centre backs and when we're defending, and we're too slow to move it across, and we tend to go back across to the left-hand side. Now, again, I played for a coach at Rovers who used to always tell me 2 or 3 times one direction. So go left, go left, go left, then go right.
Test it. Yeah, test.
And keep dragging them over, and then bang, you catch them out. And that's the point of that. And that's the low block. What are your thoughts on this, Locky?
Yeah, I agree. The thing for me, what you've got to do is, as you mentioned there, you've got to test it. First of all, when a team's sitting deep, test it. See where the potential, exactly. Yeah. See where them first 5 seconds when we win the ball back, they're vital. The passes have got to be on, the decision making, and it isn't always on. But it's about I forgot what I was saying now. Yeah, you got to test it. You got to test it. Is there any weaknesses in it? I don't mind it. If the first 10, 15 minutes are slow and you're just trying to figure out where the spaces might be, that's fine. That will happen. You'll need to get into it, obviously. But if you see a space, we've identified this, exploit it. I think we're too passive, and I think some of our players don't recognise where the spaces are, even though they are there, which means the midfielders are on the ball. Tanaka will be on the ball in the middle there, and he'll be looking for Aronson or he'll be looking for someone. But that someone isn't making that run into the space, in between the defender and the fullback, the right back and the centre back. Yeah, that's the problem. It's the connection between what the midfielders see and what the guys see, because obviously the guys in the middle of the block there are facing against goal, whereas Tanaka might be looking towards it. That's where the communication comes in and the understanding of the spaces around you. And I don't think Aronson, in fairness, not this game, but previous games, is very good in that space, very good on the half turn. His decision after that is questionable. But we don't have enough players like that for me, Joe. Ramazani is one I think can do that as well. But again, it's about finding them consistently. Solomon, he does it a bit wider and then drifts in with it. But for me, what you need in a low block, for me personally, if you are looking for overloads out wide, you need a big physical guy in there. Someone that can hold it up, someone that can run in behind, be a presence in the box. I don't think we have that. That's the thing for me. There's so many ways to break them down. There is, like you're right, it's all that quick decision making, how quick you move that ball. It's key. It's so important. But at the end of the day, if it's a very good low block, you've got to be patient and you can't get frustrated, but you've got to keep taking the risks and keep trying to find these spaces. And I think after 10 minutes, we kind of get a bit disheartened and stop taking those risks.
Sulky.
You know what I mean?
I think we get sulky. Yeah. Why won't you let us play? Unfortunately, the low block is a defensive tactic. And if you're a manager who puts that out there, and if you don't concede in a game and you manage to get a point or a win out of it, it's a perfect tactical performance. You've nailed it as a defensive side. So
love it.
We always say it's not always about us, but sometimes it is. If you know, and again, going back to Joe Rodon's comment, we know how every team in this league is going to line up. Then why don't you know how to get around the back? That's the bit for me.
That's it, mate.
Yeah, as Kim said, why won't you let us win?
Yeah, how dare you?
But it is. But it should be said, just because it was mentioned a couple of times and by commentators and other people that Leeds have an issue at low block, doesn't mean Leeds are always facing a low block, because they haven't this year. Blackburn, I saw comments online saying low block again, wasn't a low block. Preston, arguably, not a low block either until the last maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Last 20 minutes of most games, they are, because they're winning. And why wouldn't it be? Do you know what I mean? It's common sense. But for the most part, they're set up like the way they're prepared for the game is what you're about to show now, I believe, for most of it.
So this is the mid block. So what you'll notice in this is you still have that compact lines between the back 4 and your midfield 4, and then your midfield 4 and your front 2, or your front 1 and your 10 sitting in the middle to cut the passing lane out. You still have those compact blocks. You're still tucked in pretty much. I would say this is probably a little bit wider. Pretty much the width of the 18-yard line is probably usually the guiding lines for where the mid block starts for width-wise. And then you want to get that middle part of the pitch locked down in that central area. And this is where Leeds have faced problems, because when Leeds start to play out from the back here, Tanaka usually drops in. So one of these players here will come in here. You've got a press, but it's a passive press. They're just blocking passing lanes. So they're basically saying you're not going to pass through us. And that, when it worked very well, it's a good system. Preston actually did a very good job of stopping Leeds passing through their lines. So then you got the very obvious one. Mid block, very, very simple. You either go around it or you go over it. And that's where you've got all this space. So what you need here is you need your wingers to be very high, but you need to move the ball. It goes back to that transition. You've got to move the ball quickly from here into this area in front of them to give them the maximum amount of time and the maximum amount of space to do damage. And the reason I keep saying tempo for 2 years, I've been saying tempo, is because Leeds team is designed to play with tempo, but they don't always do it. If you look at the wide players we have, they're the best players Leeds have in the squad from a creative goal scoring and assist perspective. You need to play to their strengths. You need to get the ball in front of them in enough time where they can do damage with their pace and do damage with space. You look at Nanto, and he's a victim of this. Sometimes by the time he gets the ball, he's got 3-4 players around him, and he has to go back outside, moves dead. Same with Dan James. If you get him running at teams, lethal. If you pass to his feet, he has to come back with the ball. Same with Ramazani. Solomon kind of likes it a bit more compact because he likes to run at players and try and weave in and out, but ultimately will come inside again. Whereas ideally with Leeds, especially when Mateo Joseph was playing, you want to get to the byline and whip crosses in for front post runs. And we don't do that because we don't get into those areas quick enough. So with this, it's very, very simple. From here, it needs to get into these areas here as quickly as it possibly can. Ideally, in front of the player. So speed is important again. So when I keep saying tempo, I mean move the ball quickly. So minimize the touches, move the ball at pace, get through the transitions through the third. So, your first, your second, and your third area of the park, get into those areas quickly, and then you should be in more often than not, will be able to do damage. And what you've seen happen to Leeds with Preston, you'll see happen there. When you break at pace, you turn the defenders, they're facing their own goal, and any cross across the box is panic stations because like Joe wrote on, they'll opt to either leave it so I don't put it in my own net, or they'll swipe at it and put it into their own net. And that's why it's called a corridor of uncertainty. It causes problems. But that all comes from a quick transition from defense to attack and getting into those spaces. Locky, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I don't know what I can really add to that. You've said it all. I think, again, whatever you're coming up against as the opposition, I think you've got to look at what you do well and how you can exploit it. That's the key part of it. Right, you've got this block in front of you, whether it's a mid block or a low block. Regardless of that, you've got to look at what you've got. You've got 4 very quick players up front, very quick players. You've got to find a way to get them in a position 1v1, wherever that is, centrally, out wide, in a 1v1, because they will win it. But then when we're in 1v1 situations, beat your man. I've not seen that enough for what I'd like from our wingers. I need to see more of that. Because there is position, Solomon, Nonto, even Dan James at times, although he's been very good this season with that stuff, I think he's improved. Ramazani plays a bit more central. I need to see a bit more of him.
Yeah.
Aronson, 1v1 situations, I don't see enough of it. And that's where that brave decision comes in. If you've got it 1v1 with their fullback, you're beating the block because you're on their byline. You're on their last line then. You've just got to beat him. And we slow it down, we stop and come back, or we cut inside where the space is on the outside. It's all about just realizing, taking 10, 15 minutes into the game to analyze what's happening in front of you, who they've got, where their weakness is, where the space is, and exploiting it. And this comes down to, again, the players and the manager both communicating on and off the pitch to decide what to do. There's a disconnect in, like you said, when we come up against these teams, which is most teams nowadays, of how to overcome that original idea. They get like Nonto might think, I'm going to have space in this game. Well, actually, they've got a guy following him all around the pitch. What do we do now? And it seems to be, I'll pass it to Tanaka and then we'll see. Do you know what I mean? We'll go back and we'll see. Whereas someone's got to take the reins. For all the criticism of being reliable on Rutter and Somerville last season, they took the reins in games like this when it needed it. They stood out. They think, right, I'm just going to take these guys on and have a shot then. We don't do that enough for me this season. Any individual, really.
Yeah. I really don't think it's rocket science this season, what's going on. I think it's a couple of smart moves. I think at halftime, I would have gone to a 3 at the back against Preston. I think it was screaming for it. Like, you'll have your sweeper to cover your counter attacks, but you've got your more players going forward then, and you can do that. Wait until the last 15 minutes to go 6 up top. And sometimes we get ahead of the ball too quickly, again, because of the slow build up. So you get so many players ahead, and when you look up, all you see are just bodies overlapping and no space. And that can be a real problem for creative players. So even if you've got a Tanaka or a Rotwell or a number 10, if they're looking up and all they're seeing are bodies and no space,
and it's all
what do you
one-dimensional.
do?
It's all one-dimensional.
Exactly.
They're not on different lines. They're all on the same line, and that's the last line. I don't mind it if they all come on. I genuinely don't mind it if we bring 6 attackers on. But if they all need to be in different spaces on different lines to affect the game, they're all just very high. So there's no real structure. And that's honestly relatively easy to defend because they'll just sit one deeper. They can do that. You put 6 up, they can put 6 back, and they'll just sit in their shape and then defend for their lives. And that's what teams do.
We don't do raised voices here, Andy. We're all about the detail. We're not about the sensationalism and the emotion. There's no emotion here, Andy. None. Literally nothing. Yeah, look, we talk about it all day. Steve, you've identified the errors and results in Preston's goal. Should Mez have done better? At the very end, yeah. But it is very much at the end. And this is why when you look at football, I always, again, things I say to players, don't always look at the last player to make the mistake to go, it's his fault. Go back 3 or 4 phases of the play and go, well, where did this start?
Yeah.
Were there any opportunities between then and the goal for it to be stopped? Did anyone make an attempt to stop it? Who were they? And then ultimately what happened at the end? So yes, Meslier gets 2 hands on that ball. It's not in the corner. For me, the way it's hit, he needs to pull that into his chest, nice and tight, and wrap his body around it, or it needs to go out into the for a corner, out into the sideline. Like keepers are trying to push that ball away. He gets both hands on it, but there's no forward momentum from the hands, and it bends in behind him into the corner because of the pace of the shot. But Bogle's not marking the striker close enough, and he should be. Joe Rodon's made 0 attempt to clear that ball and should have. Pascal Struijk has been rounded very easily and should have felled the man. Joe Rodwell's given the ball away, and as Locky has already said, 4 players make 0 attempt to get back and cover, and they're bypassed by 4 players playing for the opposition team. So they could have got there had they made the run. So again, yes, you can point the finger at Meslier and you can say his XG is low because it is, and it's a fact, it is.
Yeah.
But there are other problems leading into that goal, and there's culpability across the board, and has been said and discussed. There's plenty there. We need to discuss accuracy of shooting. Bottom line, if you can't be accurate, Milichip, shoot more volume, and that's what we're doing at home.
Good enough. That's it. None of us. We saw it in the Premier League even last year. None of us got a strike on him. Solomon's definitely got a strike on him. Ramazani's got a strike on him. Pirot has. Even Tanaka and Rothwell can hit them. Do you know what I mean? Not like we've got players that can't shoot. They just don't.
Yeah. Look, a 9 and a 10 is needed. We've all talked about it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think there's other very simple solutions that Leeds United could do that would fix the issue. But move the ball quicker, get at teams more, shoot more. It should be basic. Saying it out loud, it sounds ridiculously simple, but it should be. Anyway, that's our breakdown for tonight. Massive thank you to Ben, for Locky, you're over here. Locky, for putting together his stuff. Loved the details. Great to be able to actually dip into this and see it from an analyst's perspective on what they do. Question marks whether Leeds analysts are doing the same thing. They probably should be. And as I said, if not, just hire this man instead. He'll do it for you. Folks, I'll be back in the morning for some Leeds news. We'll have a preview getting ready for the weekend's game of what should be hopefully a win at home to Oxford. Ben, what's going on over your channel this week? What can people look forward to?
I did a little actually I don't know, I can't remember. I'll be doing some stuff. I did a little recruitment video. There we go. I did a planning for January video, and the next month I'm going to have 3 or 4 different recruitment videos coming out. I'll be doing some tactical stuff like we've done today, some shorter ones. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, there's some I'm planning on doing some content around potential number 10s for next year. I might grab Locky and see if he fancies popping along and having a chat about that as well. There are some other stuff coming up. People are asking about merchandise for the channel. I had a very, very nice conversation with a man this week about merch for the channel, and it will be coming in the new year. It's been sorted. We're organizing some stock. My assets and graphics have all gone across, so we're organizing all that now. So for anyone that wants to support the channel through merch, that is coming in the new year. Keep an eye out for that. And I will be doing a watch along, which I swore I'd never do, on a different platform to YouTube, one that's called Big Up. It's a sports live streaming platform only. It's all they do over there. And I don't want to impact the guys that do live streaming and watch alongs over here. So it'll be over there. It's very much a trial, and we'll see how it goes. So if you want to follow me doing that, it could be this weekend at Oxford, depending if a couple of things get fixed, because the championship teams aren't currently loaded into it and they're working on getting them in for me. So if that's in there, we'll do it then. If not, we'll do it when it's ready, but I'll let you know when that's going to happen. And we'll see. It could be an absolute disaster of me ranting at a TV screen, or it could be slightly good. Who knows? But we'll have a conversation about it. Anyway, massive thank you again to Locky for doing all the work on this. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's watched the channel today and stuck in for the detail. Arthur, go watch it back, mate. It's good. We've enjoyed this one. So
yeah, we went off a bit.
we do. But look, it's been an hour of a stream. We'll get done before the hour mark. Folks, enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you in the morning for more Leeds news. Talk to you then. See you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.